What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? I told y'all that I was gonna get this man on. We're gonna sit down, have a conversation, just like we always should have. Even though it's good when you have it on the Zoom or Skype people in, but it's different when you're in person. So help me welcome to the show. Y'all already know who it is, Stephen A. Smith.
What's up, my man?
Hey, brother, welcome to the show, man.
I told you I'd be here. I'm in the house, man.
So that's one thing I respect about you, man. You're a man of your word. Yeah. You told me a long time ago when I came on your show, you said, anytime you want me on your show, I'll be there.
Yeah.
And I hit you up. We in the same city.
Yeah.
I said, let's do a podcast, man.
Sure.
And you agreed to it, and I appreciate that.
You did the same for me. When I called you, you told me you was going to come on. You came on. That's the least I could do. So I'm happy to be here, bro.
Yeah, so, okay, we'll get to some of the weird controversies, right? We'll
Sure.
get to that. But I want people to have an opportunity to understand you from the very foundation, because there's a lot of guys and gals that follow me that's a younger generation that wasn't around when Stephen A. Smith first started, wasn't around when Stephen A. Smith was whooping their heads on the sports network.
Right.
They're starting to now see Stephen A. in the political realm. So I want to start from the beginning, Stephen A. Like where you come from, what was your family dynamic growing up?
I was from Hollis, Queens, New York City. I was born in the Bronx, raised in Queens since I was 1 year old. The youngest of six, four older sisters, a brother that was 9. My older sister was 10 years older than me, Linda. She's still alive. My brother was 9 years older than me, died in a car accident in Texas in 1992. And then I got 3 sisters that are younger than him, but older than me. So, and both of my parents are from the Caribbean. My mother's from St. Thomas. My father's from Antigua. I got a bunch of relatives from Antigua, Puerto Rico, St. Thomas, St. Croix, Anegada, all the West Indian blood and all of that stuff. Right. So that's where it came from. And, just growing up in the streets of Hollis, a lot of, poor folks and struggling, trying to make it and whole bit. Single homeowners, no doubt, but it was still really, really poor and a lot of crime and all of that other stuff. So I had to maneuver my way through the streets and stuff like that, just like most of us have to do. And I got left back in the 4th grade because I had a 1st grade reading level. They said that I was struggling with dyslexia, and I wrote in my book that this professor, Mr. Caravan, in the 7th grade, he told my mother, he said, he's still messed up over getting left back years ago. He said he thinks he's not smart, but he's very smart. He said, but he's thinking he doesn't know something. It's not that he doesn't know. He doesn't listen. He said if he's bored, he'll drift, and he won't hear you. And then you ask him a question, and he never heard. So his attitude is he doesn't know, when in fact he wasn't even listening to comprehend. He said, but you have to find what he's interested in. And he told my mother, if you find out where his passion lies, you'll have a star in your hands.
Wow.
And I knew, I was sitting right there when he said it, and I knew that my passion was sports.
Really?
And so, I loved playing basketball. I loved watching basketball, football, baseball, and boxing. My 2 favorite to watch was basketball and boxing before the NFL took off and stuff like that. But I've always been real, real heavy in the sports, analytical data, stats, all of this stuff, paying attention. But I always leaned more on the eye test. No matter what the numbers told me, I would look at the numbers to watch the player and look at the player to watch the number to see if it vibed. And if a player was averaging like 30, it's obvious they could score whatever. But if you were getting to the hole and dunking on somebody as opposed to shooting J's or shooting the 3 or whatever, I was like, all right, force him outside. He can't do anything, but he needs to get closer to the basket, and then to get closer to the basket, if you're a big man, that's fine. But if you're a guard, okay, do you have ball handling skills? Oh, he like to go left, he like to go right, but he don't like to do both. Here's his weakness, stuff like that. Yeah, he's a setup shooter, but he can't shoot off the dribble. I would analyze stuff like this from the time I was a kid. So I knew that ultimately, I would be in sports in some capacity. And then, ultimately, when I cracked my kneecap in half in college at Winston-Salem State University, they asked me what I was going to do, and I said, I'm going to be on television. And my sister Linda was like, that's nice, that's cute, but reading a prompter and smiling, that ain't long-term security. She said, you got to have substance. Try being a writer first. And she said, you can write, try that. And next thing you know, I'm writing for the school newspaper, then I'm writing for the local weekly, then I'm writing for the local daily and stuff like that, and had my internships and part-time jobs there. Interned at the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, interned at the Winston-Salem Journal, and interned at the Greensboro News and Record before I got a high school job in 93 at the New York Daily News. 14 months later, Philadelphia Inquirer and the Philadelphia Daily News came calling. I chose the Philadelphia Inquirer, and I went from the Philadelphia Inquirer to getting into television and sports talk radio, and my career took off from there.
Did you ever think it would be this big? Because I mean, I saw that number that I heard online that you signed some crazy contract.
Right. No, I never knew.
Did you ever think it was?
I never saw that coming.
I mean, because you have to know that you were different, which means that what I noticed in you when I watch you do sports commentary and everything else you do, it seems like everybody else is on a script and you keeping it real.
Right.
You just tell it like it is.
Yeah.
You know, y'all said it. No, I know what it is, and this is kind of how you present yourself. And so, did you know then that, like, dude, I'm different?
Well, I knew I was different. I just didn't know that it was going to materialize into so much success. I didn't have official broadcast training. It was on the job training, and it was as a writer, not as a television guy. So when I got into radio and television, all right, that's talking. My mother said I was talking coming out of the womb, so it was never a problem for me to talk. But she said that, and you know, for me knowing how to write, it was like, okay, I know how to write, and I'm a reporter. So even though I don't have this television training, I was supremely confident because the people who did have the television training would come to me asking me for answers to the questions they had because they didn't report. They didn't report like that. You know, I knew that I had a reporter's background and I found out information and stuff like that. And as a result, it put me in a big position to have content. So now it's just a matter of talking in a way that, all right, listen, here it is, y'all. Here's what I know. Here's what I heard. Here's what the truth is based on what my eyes saw. And just tell it like it is. And people gravitated to that, and my career just took off from there.
Do you think because you did this as a black man, and you know, in a time where there weren't a lot of black men on television doing it the way you were doing it, do you think that you being a black man, you garnered the attention of a lot of black people? You became the fan favorite, like, so black people looked at it and said, "Look, it's one of us that's out there making it happen."
Honestly speaking, man, it was one of my goals as I was doing it. I'm never one that wants to. I'm not a person that strives to succeed and wants to do it just for myself. I like being a pioneer. I'm a legacy kind of guy from the standpoint that I think about, the lives that I'm going to affect by doing what I do and the doors that I'm going to open. And one of the things that, you're dealing with white America, you're dealing with corporate America, you always want to let them know, don't judge a book by its cover. And don't think that, I got this cadence, this tenor to my voice and all of this other stuff that, I'm from the streets, but I'm not of it. It's like I was born, I'm experienced with it, I know it, but I know how to go into a boardroom and speak your lingo. Just like I know how to go into the barbershop and speak that lingo. I know how to be on the street corner and speak that lingo. Whatever it is, I'm not a one-dimensional cat. I'm multidimensional, which I happen to believe most of us are, And so, especially when we black, because we have to be. If, you're going to be successful, a lot of times growing up, that was the mentality that we had. So I knew that. And as a result, I was like, okay, can you look beyond the fact that I don't have this? When you're doing television, they encourage you, or at least in the past, they would encourage you to have like this Midwestern accent. In other words, not to be able to tell where you're from.
Right.
You're talking, we don't know where you go. Are you from Kansas City? Are you from St. Louis? Are you from, where are you from? They don't know. If you are a poised professional, well taught, you didn't let them know where you were from by how you spoke. I didn't waste time with any of that stuff. I'm like, I'm from New York City. This is how I sound. This is how I speak. This is where I come from, but I know that I can articulate myself, well enough and intelligent enough for you to comprehend where I'm coming from with clarity. So if you're going to focus on just my accent, I mean, please, that's like looking at somebody from Texas saying they got that southern drawl of them. They can't be on television. Why do that? So what, where they from? What are they saying? What's the substance behind their words? That's what we should learn to focus on. And so for me, when I went in front of the camera, it was mission-minded from the standpoint, I'm from the streets of New York City. And I can talk to the brothers, that's true. I can talk to y'all too. I don't have to, and I'm not being phony. All of these are facets of a personality. You've got versatility to it. I remember one time somebody challenged me and he was like, but that's not real. I said, it's not real. So let me ask you a question. When you go home to your mother, do you speak to your mother the way you speak to your boys? And he was like, And it was a white guy I said it to. I said, do you speak to your mama the way you speak to your boys? I said, I don't give a damn what kind of man you are. A man does not speak to his mother the way that he speaks to the fellas. Right. I said, so it's understood that there's versatility to your vernacular, how you communicate, who you're communicating to. All of those things are important. So I've always known that. You know, you're not going to speak to the fellas the way you speak to a lady. You know what I'm saying? You might talk to the fellas in a certain way, especially if it's a lady you like. All of a sudden, your tone going to change. You know what I'm saying? You're going to be a little up, going to have a little pep in your step. You're going to try to be mellow. You're going to try to be smooth. You're not going to try to be off-putting because you're trying to be impressive, right? Stuff like that. This is stuff we did growing up. All of that just shows that you're more than one, one monolithic thought, one monolithic thinking, one monolithic people. No, we come in all shapes, colors, and sizes, and I've always known that.
And so, as you progressed in your career, did you ever get a sense of imposter syndrome? And let me explain that.
Okay.
Not imposter syndrome, but more of the thought that I have is like when people go to war and everybody, just say everybody in your unit die and you survive. It's called survivor's guilt. Okay. This is a concept that I thought about the other day, and I promise that I feel like successful black men go through survivor's guilt all the time. And it's not, people don't talk about it enough, which means as you become more successful, you start moving up the chain, you start making more money, you start being in rooms that most people can't get in. A lot of those rooms are a lot of white people in it. Did you ever feel a sense of, I need to always look back and identify with where I came from? Like, let me give you an example. This will be a better explanation. I feel like LeBron James, that dude is one of the greatest examples of how a young man should operate in his life. Very successful, raised his boys, no public affairs, not that I know of, right? He ain't cheated on his wife. He a loyal dude to his wife, right? But when he has an opportunity to look back at the young men and say, let me show you how to get from where you're at to where I'm at, it seems like he goes in the reverse. He tried to dumb himself down and his successes and all that he's done down to saying, I want y'all to know I'm just like y'all. The police is after me just like y'all. I'm afraid to drive as a black man in America.
I don't want to say push back because I'm not pushing back because you're not wrong. I wouldn't use the word guilt. The word relatability comes. It's important. If you're talking, youth of America, particularly black youth of America, they're going through things that we may have gone through, or they may be going through something that's different than what the typical white youth has to go to, the typical Hispanic youth has to go to. And if you're from that ilk, if you're from that ethnic community, you want to make sure that you can communicate with them in a way where they're receiving what you say. And we're all taught that when you're communicating with youth, if they don't find you relatable, they're deaf to you. You see what I'm saying? They don't hear you because they don't believe you have any clue about who they are, where they're from, what their experiences are, or whatever the case may be. It's almost the equivalent of being at a graduation and it's a junior high school graduation and you listening to a politician. Right. Like, really, are you really going to be interested in listening to that politician if you're in junior high school? Certainly, if you're a college student or whatever, that's different. You're older, you're more advanced, you've been more exposed to things. But if you are in junior high school, you don't want a politician talking to you about politics and what your future holds. You're like, who is this person? This person doesn't know me. I don't know them. And so when you look at whether it's LeBron, me, you, or anybody else, when we're speaking to our youth, we're trying to be as relatable as we possibly can because it's important to us that they hear us, not just that they're listening to us, but that they really hear us. So when we walk away, they've absorbed what we've said, and it's memorable enough that we hope they'll attach something to it that's going to benefit them down the road. So I don't look at it as guilt. I've never felt guilt because I've been able to be in rooms that most of us cannot get in or haven't been able to get in. I look at it as a responsibility that I'm fortunate enough to have been in this position through the grace of God and through the help of a lot of people along the way. And because of that, to whom much is given, much is required. So you have this knowledge, it's your responsibility to bestow that knowledge upon as many people as you can in an effort to help your community get out of this phase, per se, that we may be in from time to time. Nah, there's a different way. There's always a different way. There's a multitude of ways to do certain things. These are the ones I might know. Here you go.
Yeah. When I think of that, I forget the guy's name. You probably remember. He carrying a gun at the strip club.
Mm-hmm. And John Morant.
John Morant.
Yeah.
He got John Morant. He's on live stream with the gun.
His friends were the ones live streaming while he was doing
while he got the gun.
Right.
But see, when I see guys like that, and it almost seems like a lot of young brothers that become successful feel like they have to go back and still identify with their lifestyle. That's kind of what I was trying to get at. LeBron James may not be a great example. Verbally, I think he was an example because it seemed like his rhetoric is more. I don't know why he feel like his rhetoric needs to be identifying as a victim versus a victor, in my opinion. But some of these other young brothers, they get up there and they're successful, man. They're making money. They're wealthy. They got riches, and they feel like they need to still go back to the hood and connect with people that ain't doing nothing with their life.
I feel
and
what
you get
you're
what I'm saying? But I feel like they feel that way because they like, dude, I made it. How am I gonna leave my cousin them who we were, living in the house with roaches,
right?
Eating top ramen.
But here's, and it's not so much that you're missing it. It's this. It's not that they go back. It's that the brothers are with them. You see what I'm saying? It's like when you were working to get. I'm not talking about LeBron. People on that level. That's a different thing, which I'll get into in a second. But with a John Morant, it's like you going pro. You in college. These cats were with you when you had nothing.
Right.
They supported you. They had your back and stuff like that. And now you got more money than you ever dreamed you'd have in your life. And they might have been running. I'm not saying that I know that for sure about his friends. Even if I did, I wouldn't say so. But if cats was running the street, well, they ain't got to run the street no more. They could run for you. You know what I'm saying? One cat can cook. Another cat can drive. Yeah. Another cat is just your boy. Another cat is security. It could be anything. You just want them around. But it's not just because they're your boys and you trying to look out. It's because they're the only thing you trust. Because along the way, everybody wanted a piece of you because they saw you as the cash cow. And they didn't give a damn about you. They gave a damn about their own personal interests. And if you from the streets with these cats, you wise enough to see that and to know what that is. And you're like, hell with all of that. It might cost me more to have these boys around, but at least I trust them and I know they got my back. And so that's most important. And as a result of that, you might come out with your pocket with a little extra dollars just to keep them around. Hell, I'm in my 50s and I do it. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's certain people that I have around. I don't necessarily quote unquote need them because I can do certain things on my own. But I know that position might need to be filled. And if they're qualified to do it and they have my trust, wait a minute now. That's a valuable, valuable asset to have. Somebody in your inner circle who's competent and trustworthy is usually one or the other. But when you know you can have both, and it might cost you a little extra dollars, if you make it $250 million like Ja and somebody like I can afford it, it'll be all right. You know what I'm saying? You could throw out this $100,000 salary, $150,000 salary. Hell, you making what is it? $3 million a month. You know, something like that. So you looking at it that way. And that's where it is. Whereas with LeBron, you might have somebody that is elevated to such a level. Remember, he got his boys too. Yeah. They were with him from the beginning, but they've acted considerably better than some of the other players, and their hanger-ons may have acted. And so that's the difference.
So what do you feel about this? Because I feel like I fall in this category a little bit. I grew up in the hood, but when I went to college, my mind changed. Mm-hmm. I said, what we've been doing is crazy.
Right.
Having a kid out of wedlock and having baby mamas is crazy.
Right.
When I was young, I thought it was normal. Mm-hmm. You get married and stuff is like a secondary thought. You're like, you have kids first and you might marry your baby mama or not.
Right.
All that hustling and dudes selling dope and all that was crazy. Mm-hmm. Getting mad at somebody and pulling a gun and fighting the first time you feel offended by stuff. Mm-hmm. When I got to college, it was crazy. And therefore, I wanted nothing to do with where I grew up. Mm-hmm. I didn't go back and feel like, I'm connected you know, I still had this sense of pride where I came from, but like,
Right.
I'm not finna hang with nobody I grew up with.
Right.
You know, if you ain't doing the right thing.
Right.
And I end up getting, you know, more and more success. And the more and more I don't want nothing to do with the hood. The more and more I don't want nothing, I don't even want to drive through there.
Right.
But, you know, people may look at me as a sellout. You know, what do you think about, because I know there's people that they still go back to the hood. And they grew up like that. But then some people like, dude, I'm done with this. I don't want nothing to do with that. What do you think about people like that? You think that's like considered a sellout or what?
I don't think it's sellout. I don't talk about people like that. That pisses me off when people talk about people like that, because again, they're trying to define who you should be. No, you do you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Me, I'm somebody that always want to go home. I drive to Hollis. The only reason I don't go to Hollis anymore is because my mother died in the house. That's what affects me. It's like there is like this pall that comes over me. It's just a level of misery I can't describe, and I just don't want to be there. My sister's finally moved out the house and stuff like that, and I got my older sister who's a bit ill in assisted home living and stuff like that. I take care of her, but it's like I couldn't go home because that's the last place I saw my mother alive, and I saw her carried out of the house when she died. And this is like 9 years ago, come June 1st, and it's like, yo, it affects me differently. So there's like just different reasons, but if it were not for that, hell yeah, some of my boys still in Hollis. Also, I go back. I pull up right on 2/3 just to see him. You know, what's up? How y'all doing? Now I ain't staying. You know what I'm saying? I'm not staying. I'm living a different life, but it don't stop me. You know, from and you know what? And the reason why that's important, you know, Officer Tatum, is because it's not about hanging out. It's not about being there. It's about the cats that you know, letting them know you never forgot them. Like I had one of my boys that, you know, he used to be dealing drugs on the streets and all of that stuff. He did time and stuff like that. He get out of jail. I don't hang with him, but guess what? He called me when he needed some tickets to a Knicks game. I gave him a Knicks game. That was like I gave him $1 million, bro. You know what I'm saying? Because here I am on TV and I'm living my life and I'm being successful and all of that stuff. And he called me up and all he wanted was tickets. He never asked me for anything in life, ever. You understand? And all he wanted was to take his girl to the Knicks game for her birthday. I'm like, I got you. No problem. You know, I took care of it, you know. And it's like you can, along the way, you move up and you move on from the neighborhood. But moving on from a neighborhood is one thing. Moving on from a culture is one thing. Moving on from your peeps is entirely different.
Yeah,
your peeps don't deserve that if they ain't do nothing, if they didn't do anything wrong. You see what I'm saying? Now you can sit up there, look, bro, I'm not, you know, they going to this spot in Hollis to party. I'm not going. I don't do that. You know what I'm saying? I'm living a different life. I don't have no time for that. But you could come see me. Or when I come back to Hollis to see my sisters and stuff, I could come see you. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
But you and me are going to always be good, you know, because I still got boys that live in Hollis. Baby mama stuff and all that, I'm in no position to talk. I have 2 daughters. I'm not married. And, you know, it wasn't intentional. It happened. And why did it happen? Because, damn it, I was having sex and then protect myself. It's that simple. I didn't plan on it. You understand? It happened. My mother was highly pissed at me. Very, very pissed at me. You know, very disappointed. And I disappointed her. She's like, you guarded yourself all of these years and you just dropped the ball because I had lost my job at ESPN and I just wasn't thinking. And, you know, it happened. But at the end of the day, she said, you're going to make it up to me. You're going to be the greatest father you could possibly be. That's what you're going to do. So I made that promise to her, and I'm a girl dad to the core, and anybody that knows me knows that. And I'm blessed and fortunate to have 2 angels in my life that are my world. One's 18, one's 17. You know, they both straight A students doing their thing. And it's like, yo, this is what, and they don't know anything about the hood. They've never seen the hood, never been exposed to the hood. You know what I'm saying? And I don't want that for them. Whereas if it were boys, I probably would have had them back in the hood because I need you to know how to handle yourself in the streets. I don't want my girls exposed to that kind of stuff. You know, I want them to be averse to that. So those are the kind of things that you think about and stuff like that. And, you know, there's a lot of benefit as detrimental as a quote unquote victim's mentality is. There's a lot of people from the hood that don't have the victim mentality. Right. that is trying to get up out of there, that is striving, that'll look at you and be like, hell you talking about? What you mean woke culture? What you mean cancel culture? Y'all lost y'all damn mind. And, and I'm talking about these people living in the hood, working, busting their tail to make ends meet. You know what I'm saying? Luckily, if they making six figures, that kind of thing, that will have that kind of attitude too. So it's like, you'd be surprised. It's like, it's a lot of us that are like that, and you just got to know it, and you can't run from who you are. You can evolve, you can grow, you can mature, you can upgrade, you can do all of those things. But the core and the essence of who you are, trust me, it hasn't changed. You are who you've always been. You can handle it. You may not want to, but you can handle it because it's where we're from. It's who we are.
How does it make you feel when your whole career, man? I feel like you've been an example for young black men, people in general, right? Your success story is for everybody, but especially young black men. I feel like you've been a pillar in the black community doing your thing. How does it affect you now that you got folk that used to be your boys, used to be down with you, had your back, and now that they think you have gone to the MAGA side, which anybody with a connected brainstem know you ain't MAGA.
Right.
You just voicing your opinion in a balanced way politically.
Right.
How does it make you feel? I'm gonna tell you how it make me feel, and I want to hear how it make you feel.
Sure. When
I first went to college, and this is something that happens in the black community that's crazy to me, and it's not every black person, but I think you know what I'm saying. It's like you get more love when you come home from prison than you do when you come home from college.
I think that's accurate.
When I went to college, people were mad at me. Me and my brother, both went to college. They go, y'all white boys. Y'all trying to be like the white man. Yeah, like y'all left us. And you go to college, you become successful, and people at every level, they hate me. I get more and more hate. Now, I got a lot of people that love me, generally speaking, but I'm saying people I grew up with, when I went to college, they started flaking. When I went to a Trump rally and I said, man, I support the president. I want Trump to win. Dude, people in my church called me Sister Sia. I'll never forget Sister. I got the message in my phone. I ain't never deleted it. Sister Sia, speaking in tongues at church every Sunday, called me the N-word, said you ain't gonna never, you an N just like everybody else. You ain't gonna never be nothing but an N to these white folks. And I ain't even know she cussed. And that kind of stuff. And I like to say, man, I don't care about that. But sometimes it get to me where I'm like, y'all saying I'm a sellout. I'm still the same person y'all knew way back then. How does it make you feel when these people, because I've seen you on the show.
It depends on the source. Some people ain't worth a damn. And their definition of misery their definition of happiness, is bringing you down to the pathetic state of affairs their life is in. And it ain't hard to figure out who they are. Then there are others who you've respected, don't know that well, but you're looking at it and you're like, damn, it's like that. You have to go there, and that stings. Where the hurt comes is when it's from people who you believe have betrayed you. It's not many, it's a few. There was a woman that was once in my life who I loved dearly that said to me, you sold out your own people. And I'm like, what? And a year earlier, she had called me to tell me, you got to talk me out of voting for Trump. I'm so sick of these Democrats. Like, which one is it? Yeah. Which one is it? Wait. So how all of a sudden it's this now? And, you had a couple of boys. They weren't, my ride and die crew, cats that I went to college with, cats that, that I grew up with. No, it's none of them. Those they going to the end with me. They know that. I know that. And if they got a disagreement with me, they'll tell me. What they've really told me is that, why are you doing this? Because we know you're not what they say you are. why do you even expose yourself to this? Why are you even touching on this? You got 2 beautiful daughters. You got your 4 sisters. You got 15 nieces and nephews, man. You living a good life. Why even do this, man? And it kills them to hear people attacking me like that. But for people that I respected and I trusted, we weren't tight on anything like that. It's just that, you get along. You run across people in the industry, you get to know them or whatever, and, you thought that these were authentic people. And then for them and this is how I measure it. It has nothing to do with them disagreeing with me. It's how they acted. It's what they said. You could say to me, Stephen don't know what he's talking about. Man, please, that don't bother me. You know what I'm saying? I met you. We talked over the phone. It was our first time really meeting. But at first we talked over the phone. And I see you on your, come on, Stephen, just come on over. They ain't going to never accept you, blah, 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 blah. And everybody like, you saw Officer Tatum going at you like that. I was like, I thought it was funny as hell. What are you talking about? He wasn't going at me. He was just letting me know. They ain't going to never accept you, Stephen. You can't trust them. Just come on over. Come on over. He was getting on me. I said, why? Why would you think that that's negative? So what? That's his opinion. That doesn't faze me. It's when I don't F with him. He'll sell out. He don't give a shit about black people. I'm like, what? I've raised millions for black people, the black community. I'm an ambassador for HBCUs. I always give back. I mean, the mentorship that I provide, the people I've reached out, the lives that I've tried to touch, the careers that I have benefited because I've gone upstairs to the C-suites and battled on their behalf to make sure they were taken care of. I'm like, really? That's what you would say about me? And it's like, I remember one cat's on morning radio now talking about me in New York City, Ebro, whatever, I've known this guy, but not like one of my boys. Yeah. I've just known this guy for over 20 years. He's sitting there and you're insulting me rather than simply disagreeing and saying why. But I got to find out about it from a video that you did on social media. When I bring up my former colleagues, it could be a Jamel Hill, it could be a Kerry Champion or something they've said in the past, nothing but respect for them. I have to find out on social media. When you've needed me in the past, did I have to find out about that on social media or did you call me? Because for me, when it comes to people that I care about, I'm mindful of how I talk about them. You see, people might look at me and talk about players. Well, wait a minute. I'm not here I don't want to be your enemy, but I'm not here to be your friend. I cover the sport. I'm not, my looking out for you is never getting in your personal life. If you ain't in police blotters, you ain't breaking no laws, what you do is your business. I ain't got nothing to do with it. I see no evil, hear no evil. I'm minding my business. But what you do on that damn basketball court, what you do on that football field, that's my domain. I get to watch and observe and chronicle because that's my job. So if I know thousands are in attendance and millions are watching on television, if you sucked, I can't sit up there and say, well, you just had a struggle tonight. But no, you sucked. You understand? That's how people relate, and that's how I've always been. So I'm looking at it from that standpoint, and I'm like, but if I know you, I approach it differently because I know you. And as a result, there's a perspective that I'm going to give. And what you're seeing in today's politics is cats are going away from all of that. And you can't convince me it ain't for clicks. You can't convince me that it's not so you can generate revenue for yourself and build your cachet. And I'm like, at what price? And you can't find somebody that you don't know to do that to? It got to be somebody that you purport to know, and you gonna come at me like that? It's real hard, because I'm not an evil person, but I can be cold. And what I mean by that is that I can cut your ass off real quick. It's like, you just cease to exist, and it's real easy for me to do once I get to that point because I don't respect how they came about it. And then these are my favorite kinds of people. The one that talk shit about you. Yeah. Excuse my language. They talk mess about you. They dog you out. They call you out of your name because they might disagree. They might not, they ain't even informed about what your full opinion is. They just go by a soundbite or whatever. Then they want to call you and talk to you. No, it's too late. You had my number before. You knew how to reach me. You knew how to get in touch with me. Somebody texted me the other day. I ignored them. Why? Because you said what you said. You've been saying what you said for weeks. What you calling me now for? Yeah. It's too late now. You already did it. And you did it on purpose. Live with it. Because I'm fortunate and blessed enough to have a multitude of platforms. And I can reach out and touch anybody anytime I want, any way that I want. And I know that. So it's like, okay, now you got to wonder if and when I'm ever going to reach out and touch you. Because I promise you, anybody that touched me in the way they touched me, I'm going to do it far more profoundly once I get through with them, if I choose to do it. And most of the time, I just choose not to, because then I got my team and I got my family and I got everybody punching down. Don't do that. And they piss me off too. Because it's like they ain't saying much with everybody attacking me. But then when I decide to hit back, why you do that? What do you mean why I did that? Did you see the person attacking me the last 6 months? Finally, I said something. And in some cases, I haven't attacked people until they've attacked me for a decade. I let it go. But then you just get tired of it and just like, all right, you just deal with it.
Who do you get it worse from, man? Like, and keep it, I mean, you know, you only know how to keep it real, but like in this movement or in this moment where you're just expressing your political beliefs, who you get attacked by more? Who's turning on you more? Is it the black people that you that follow you, or you know what I'm saying, that's on your channel and people that you knew in the industry, or is it white people in the industry and people that you knew?
It's definitely black people. It's definitely black people.
I know the answer.
But I will say this.
I knew the answer
most
to that.
Black people, most black folks give me mad love.
Right.
Like, it's just this notion that black folks have abandoned me. They ain't been out with me.
Right.
I get love from black people everywhere because, damn it, I'm not just a black man. I'm a brother. And I love my peeps. And so I know that most black folks, I mean, they know what time it is, but some try to give the impression that most feel that way.
Why do you think it's like that? Do you think it's because they feel like they have to say that, right? Some of the people that come out, they feel like they got to attack you. It's like a groupthink.
Officer Tatum, it's emotion. And let's be fair in this regard. They're wrong. But when you listen to intellectuals from our community talk about our community in an empathetic and sympathetic way, what they're highlighting is all that we've endured and all that we've been through and all the residual scars that come with it. And as a result, that's how we can be. Our initial reaction. Like the one woman that said that about me, I'm MAGA and she don't know what she's talking about. She should be ashamed of herself as well as she knows me, to be honest with you. But I also had to remember somebody in her family reminded me, you know, when Trump laid off a whole bunch of federal workers, a lot of those people were her loved ones. You see what I'm saying? And so if I then go on the air and I'm acknowledging there's actually something he's done right, some with not having to do with that. It could be the border. It could be, you know, joining Israel and bombing Iran or something. It could be the tariff war or whatever, trying something new because what we was trying wasn't working, right? That's not what they're hearing. They're hearing that this man just laid off these federal workers, and that's my loved ones that are suffering, and here you are complimenting him about something.
But see,
and that's what they do. So whether it has nothing to do with right or wrong, it has everything to do with that's how folks feel, and especially when it comes to us, we operate a lot off of how we feel.
Right,
That's
Stephen
just who we are.
I wanna jump in on this because I feel like we do it at a crazy rate when it comes to Trump and Republicans.
Okay.
But I don't feel like we had that same energy when it comes to them Democrats.
We don't.
Because they mad, losing sleep at night. Trump, I can't believe you support Trump. I can't believe you support Obama. I can't believe you support these Democrats. In the city you live in that you've been voting for 16 years and they ain't done nothing. Right. They're not even trying to do nothing. Somebody told me an interesting story about Ice Cube. And I think I think the world know a little bit about what Ice Cube did. He went to the Republicans.
And the Democrats.
And he went to the Republicans and the Democrats. He went to the Republicans and said, hey, I want to do something for the black community. He struck a deal with the Republicans, with Donald Trump, to do something incredible for the black community.
They were willing to listen to him, and the Democrats were not.
Reparations. And I'm not for reparations whatsoever anymore. You know, we passed that point. We can't do it. But
you can't do it when you're $39 trillion in debt.
Well, you can't do it when you're $39 trillion in debt. We should have done it a long time ago. And you can't do it because we can go into a whole thing on this with the Democrats, but let me get back to the point. You know, he struck a deal with Donald Trump. He go to the Democrats, they brushed him off. They shoot him. They didn't even talk to him. And I feel like you've been saying this forever. They've been doing us like this for years.
Yes.
Because when you sold out to one side, they don't have to work for you. They like, we got them hook, line, sink. Now let's go to LGBTQ. Yes. Now let's go to
that's the
group,
viral
the
video circulating right now. Like I said this yesterday.
Right.
No, I've been saying this for over 25 years. Over 25 years, whenever I've been speaking on politics, I have always said, for one election, I want black folks to vote Republican just to put the Democrats on notice that you have to work for our vote too. And to put the Republicans on notice, you might have a shot at getting our vote if you cater to us the way you cater to other communities. That's all I've ever said. In other words, flatter me. You go to a house, you don't just buy it without looking and walking through it. You don't buy a car without test driving it.
Right.
Wait a minute, flatter me. Show me what you got. I want us to go to the polls, and I want us to have them wondering, who are we going to support? That's what I would love.
Why do you think we can't get past that hump? Even this election, last election, more black men voted for Donald Trump than ever before for the Republican side.
Right.
But black women were hook, line, and sinker for Kamala Harris. I have a family member that's an AKA.
Okay.
So she don't care what Kamala did. She go, I'm both of my sorority sister.
Right.
But you see a disproportionate amount of black women voting for Kamala when the woman can't do an interview for 30 seconds without talking the word salad. She has no accomplishments. I mean, no significant accomplishments.
Well, that's harsh.
Let me say significant accomplishments.
Okay, but let me
that will lead me to believe that she's qualified to be the president.
I would push back on you with this. She's educated. She has a law degree. She's the former attorney general in San Francisco and for the state of California. She's a former United States senator. She's a former vice president. I'm just saying that.
Well, let's go point by point. She was in California, but she was responsible for the incarceration.
I get
so many young. You get what I'm saying?
Don't get me started with the weed. I mean, for weed now, but I get it. But what I'm saying to you is that I'm going to be protective of you just as much as I'm going to be protective of her when it comes to classifying whether or not we're qualified. When we've seen throughout history a lot of white folks that had connections that ended up getting jobs and getting positions that people would otherwise, even they themselves as white folks, challenged whether this person or that person actually deserved it. You know, and so, for example, Hillary Rodham Clinton was not black. She's a white woman. But we know she was qualified. Now, a lot of people might not like her. They might say, well, I'm not voting for her. But what you couldn't do is question her qualifications, you know? And so we might not have liked George W., but damn it, he was the governor of Texas. You know what I'm saying? We might not have liked H.W., but damn it, he did used to head the CIA, and he was a former senator, and he was a former vice president. I mean, damn, you know? And then you want to say, so when you look at certain things, it's like throughout history, we've had people that were qualified that were getting crucified and criticized, and we had people that were not qualified and were getting supported. Ronald Reagan was an actor. You understand? Became a governor of California, ultimately the president of the United States, and a lot of people, you know, on the right, they revered this man. To the end of the day, it happens. So I don't look at it that way. What I would say instead is that when we look at the Democratic Party today and you listen to supporters of the Democratic Party, they will talk about a plan that the Democrats have in place that benefits our community. My point is, where is it? When has it worked? Okay? Right. Now, I didn't say go vote Republican. What I said was, let's stick right here. When I interview, I had my show Straight Shooter with Stephen A. Sirius XM POTUS Radio every Wednesday night, 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I tell people this. I've had 55 guests, 28 Democrats, 27 Republicans. All right? You know how many people mad at me because I had 27 Republicans? They pissed off. They pissed off I talked to you. They pissed off I talked to Anton Daniels. They pissed off that I talked to Candace Owens. They pissed off I talked to her, Megyn Kelly, all these people. And I'm like, why? Because you see, what I want is, I don't resent you. I'm looking at you as edifying me. Tell me what you like about the Republicans. Tell me what you have against the Democratic Party. And then I want to go to the Democratic Party and I want to say, what do you think about this? Because this guy said this, and this girl said that, and it sounds like it make a lot of sense to me. How do you answer that? Because we're inching closer to the truth. And then you realize, and I had a Democrat say this to me. My team was there. We were in Vegas. I'm not going to say his name because I don't know if he wants me to do that. I don't have his permission. But he's a former football player. And he's got his podcast and all of this stuff. And he said, yo, man, you sound like one of them. And I said, I don't give a damn what you say. I sound like, respectfully, it's not it. It's that I'm a journalist by trade and I'm fair. I am not going to do something just because. I said, do you understand that I'm somebody that could sit down with the Ku Klux Klan and interview them? Even if they were using the N-word, I could talk to, I could look them dead in the face because it doesn't negate the fact that I got an abundance of questions to ask that I want the answers to. And that's what I came for. So you could try all you want to with distractionary insults and all of that stuff, but I'm coming for the answers to the questions that I have. Right. So that's my objective. And I said that to him. And he said, look, bro, let me keep it a buck with you and just tell it to you like this. He said, listen to me. We are living in very serious times. I'm swearing to you. This is what he said. The truth. He said, the truth ain't meant to be told sometimes. He said certain things. I said, wait a minute, what you talking about? He said, I don't give a damn what it is that they're doing right. It's nothing compared to what they're doing wrong. Therefore, you should never say they're doing something right. And I looked him dead in the face and I said, my brother, we will never agree. I'm not like that. I can't look at you and know that if you did 10 things wrong, but we're talking about this 11th thing, and that 11th thing you did right, I'm supposed to act like you didn't do it right just because. I can't do that. I can acknowledge the 10 things you did wrong and acknowledge the one thing you did right, but I can't ignore the one thing you did right just because I'm trying to get everybody to live on the 10. You do that with your podcast. I can't do that. I'm not built like that. There's something to me that's inherently unfair about that. It's disingenuous, and it's not about the politician, and it's not about the administration. It's about in Trump's case, for example, what about the 77 million people that voted for him? Y'all are thinking, oh my goodness, they must not care about black people. They might not care about these people. They must not care about migrants or whatever. Who told you any of that mattered to them? Who told you millions of them didn't vote for him just because of the economy? Right. Who told you another few million of them didn't vote for him just because they're pro-choice? Who told you they didn't vote for him because they wanted certain voices on the Supreme Court that they knew the libs wouldn't give them? You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. It's like, if you're telling me you're not voting for them, that's fine. But the why matters. And when you're willing to ignore the why and castigate everybody with a broad brush, but they don't want to do it for yourself, I can't relate to that. Do you think that's not fair? That's just not fair.
Do you think that for the black community, do you think that it's ever going to change significantly enough where we can be more competitive in the marketplace?
I think if the right person's in office here, it's got to be.
No, I'm saying as a community.
Yeah, but here's what I'm saying. Here's what I mean by that. You have to have somebody in a leadership role that says, "Excuse my language, stop the bullshit." Now
they got to be black, though.
Huh?
They got to be black.
It got to be black. I'm talking about to talk to your own people. It's got to be about that. Because
I feel like community can't hear from a white person.
Listen.
Because Donald Trump said, "What do you got to lose?" and everybody mad.
They could hear it, but you know what? Trump's a different animal, and we'll talk about that in a second. But the thing about it is that you've got to be somebody that is very real and very authentic about what really, really plagues us. The reality is like any other community, we want to make good money. We want safety in our streets. You understand? We want our quality of life solid, if not better. And we want safety. That's what we want. That's what we want. When you're talking to people and you speak in that language and you're telling them how to go get it, now you're on to something. Because let me tell you something right now. When people are prospering and they got something to lose, folks learn how to behave. That's all of us. I don't give a damn what your ethnicity is. Right. I don't give a damn how old or young you are. You learn how to behave when you got something to lose. And that's why parents are the most difficult people to get over on, because they raised you and they know you. Mm-hmm. And so they know what you like. They know what your proclivities are. They know what your tendencies are, et cetera, et cetera. They know what's valuable to you. And that's why as you get older, you try to disguise what really, really moves you, because you know the more you let that out, the more vulnerable you are and the more apt you are to be exploited. So you really give false impressions, or you give no impression at all as to what really, really moves you, because you don't want to empower somebody else against you. Right. That's really what it is. And unfortunately, on too many occasions in our society, we've got politicians who've mastered the art of exploitation and not mastered the art of uplifting. And that's really what this comes down to. Black folks, again, we're emotional creatures because we've been through a lot. And when you show us you care about us, you matter. The problem is we got too many politicians that are very, very good at pretending they care, but not really, really caring when they go up on Capitol Hill. And that's the problem.
And I think the worst of them are the black ones. The black people who represent the community have failed us. The black leaders, not all of them, but I think a good number of them, because they are perpetuating this, the very thing that has held us back. We see, when I look at the parties, I see more people of color on the Democrat side.
Okay.
By far.
Okay.
But the Democrats have done the worst job than anybody. Okay. And you would think that one day a black man who's in Congress, who's representing his community constituents, that he would step up and say, enough is enough. This party ain't doing enough for my community. This ain't right. I would love for LeBron James, not him. I just say LeBron James, he won a big. I got to ask you who you think the GOAT is anyway. We'll get to that.
It ain't nothing to ask. Is Michael Jordan. Don't even waste your time with that. Ain't nobody that.
We got to talk about that because, you know, I like Michael Jordan better. I'm probably biased, but we'll get to why I think it's competitive. But when I go back and I say, why can't very successful black men who have leadership positions call out the stuff in the community? Because these YNs out here thugging, young brothers selling dope, young brothers killing each other, robbing each other, hating on each other. I remember when I was growing up, and my dad told me the same thing happened to him. He made all A's on his report card. He used to play, back when we grew up, we used to play sideline kill, which means you play football in the middle of the street, tackle, no pads, no nothing. You just hitting on the street. Yeah, we did that, And he used to play, everybody loved him. He came back and made straight A's. He made 1B. He was frustrated. He, told her, when the report cards came out, they go, he trying to be white. When I was growing up, I used to say that to other young brothers. Are you trying to be white? If a young black brother is articulate, tuck his shirt in. Are you trying to be like the white man? Somebody that wanted to do something other than sports and all the same stereotypical stuff that young black people do. I feel like we could change if some of these people that are higher up start challenging our own community. They don't want to challenge it.
You're not wrong, but the problem is you're acting or you're sounding like you're talking about black folks, and every community has that problem.
But we got it worse.
Well, we got it worse because the numbers games is against us. When you make up only 13.6% of the population, when you're no longer even a dominant minority, of course it's going to have a more profound effect on you. So let's say, for example, you know what, you're from the Hispanic community that's now over 20%, and 5 of your boys go to jail. It's entirely different than when 5 of your brothers from the black community go to jail, because you had 13.6%. You white folks, you have 57%. Numbers dwindling, but you still have 57%. The point that I'm making is that the numbers favor you. So of course, it has a more detrimental effect on us, and because of it, it's a level of urgency. But the bigger thing to point out when you're talking to black people is, yo, I understand this happens in every community. It's not, isolated and indiscriminate just for us. But you have to understand it affects us more detrimentally than it affects any other community in this country, and go from there. When we do that, then we're talking in a way they're going to hear us, as opposed to talking to them in a way that says, y'all a damn problem. And this, that's
but there's a part of me, Stephen A., that think at some point, some of us got to say, y'all the problem. For instance.
But we do say that.
I'm looking at
individually.
I'm looking at that drill music.
Okay.
I'm going on IG scrolling, scrolling. And I ain't never really paid attention to drill music. I just heard about it.
I don't know anything about it. I don't.
Drill music is a genre of music where young brothers rap about killing each other. I'm not talking about hypothetically killing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about they're rapping about killings that they've done. They naming the boys, they shoot up.
Right.
They're talking about the scenario. He got shot in the head. He was running for his life. He died like a coward. And they're literally rapping about actual murders that they've done. It's called drill music. It's a whole genre. When I patrolled in the police department, I patrolled majority white communities, but I had inner city black communities too. The thing that I noticed the difference was poverty is poverty, right?
Yeah.
The poor white kids without a daddy was feet black, dirty. They ain't got no, they struggling. But the difference was the violence. The white community didn't have a gang, didn't have a Crips and Bloods. The white community that I patrolled didn't have drill music, didn't have young boys out there thugging.
Right.
The black community had the violence. And at some point, we got to address that head on. And it's not to say all y'all bad. But we have to say, we got to start taking care of our boys as men, taking care of your son, being in their life.
Right.
We got to start as men saying, we shouldn't be having abortions the way we have as a community. Because we are, per capita, black people have more abortions than anybody else. Because that's why the Hispanic community is at 20%. We used to be the majority minority. Now we the minority when it comes to the big three races and that have power and leverage in this country. And because we don't, in our churches and in our leaders and influence, we don't talk like that. We support Planned Parenthood on the Democrat side. That's eliminating the entire population of young black people. And we don't do nothing about crime. We want to let the young brothers that commit the crimes get a slap on the wrist and let them out in the community and they killing and thugging. I really think if we do not address this, it's never gonna change. Steve,
well, it has to be addressed.
They leaving us behind. We get left behind.
You're not wrong about it needing to be addressed. You're not wrong about what we're doing to ourselves. And it's a damn shame when we sit here and we're willing to look at politicians, for example, even though they have some culpability in terms of the things that they have and have not done on Capitol Hill that could have positively influenced our community along with various other communities. But in the same breath, when you got folks killing each other in the streets of Chicago at an exorbitant rate over the last several years, St. Louis at an exorbitant rate, stuff like that. You want to hear there's something being done about that. And when you've got politicians that have been quiet about that, that's a concern. Ain't no doubt about it. And there's no way around it. But in the process of doing so, it's also, and I've said this to white folks to their face, let's not walk around like you innocent ape. Like, the system itself. Now, again, this is America. And there's always a way to get around stuff. I got that. We ain't trying to adopt the victim mentality. I got that. That doesn't work. It doesn't work. I understand it. But the flip side to it is that when folks try to walk away and say them, and you don't think of the systems that you put in place, the things structurally that have served to minimize or potentially cut off the potential of folks coming from the black community, how books have been judged by their cover, proverbially speaking, and stuff like that. You got cats that coming out of the hood and they want out of the hood desperately. They ain't a part of the gangs and all of this other stuff. But how prone were you to giving them an opportunity to shine, even though they went and they worked hard and they tried to do the right right thing. You got a lot of folks in white America walking around acting like there's no proverbial glass ceiling. Who you fooling? You know what I'm saying? We see nepotism going on. We see favoritism going on. We see cats getting positions, men over women, women over black men. White women have been the biggest beneficiaries of affirmative action, more so than black folks. We all know that. How that happened? Why? Because people sat up there and looked at a policy that was put in place to benefit black America, and they found a way to piggyback off of that and to make sure it benefited them, even more so than it benefit black people. Right. That was my issue with DEI when Trump, I was like, you know, everybody was going off about DEI, and you know what I was saying? I was saying, why are we crying about it for? I said, these white folks have benefited off of DEI more than we did. What are we talking about here? But because it was something that was supposedly designed to benefit us, and now it was taken away, all of a sudden, the sensitivity heightened and everybody looked at it that way. I'm saying systemically, not this white person or that white person. I say this stuff to white people all the time. Damn it, if that's not you, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking about the system and those who gravitated to it to serve, make sure it served to their benefit at the expense of black people, Hispanics, or anybody else in between. This is systemically a problem that has existed in this country a long time, where the marginalization of black people have come into play, which is why a lot of times you hear black folks complaining about that. My issue is those black folks, some of them who do complain about it, are the ones that never lifted a finger to do anything about it. But the second you, me, or somebody else is pointing it out and we ready to tackle the issues and we ready to do something about it, but we saying, yo, y'all got to get y'all stuff together. You understand what I'm saying? Because we're trying to help, then we selling out. Well, we ain't selling out. We looking out. You're not looking out. Right. How are you looking out for the community if you somebody that's dealing drugs in our community? How are you looking out for our community more than I am? Right. If you somebody that's willing to murder one of us, how are you looking out for us more than I am? How? If you somebody that got yours and didn't give a damn about anybody else, but I'm hiring black people to work for me, how is it that you looking out for my community, but I'm not? So you're looking at all of this stuff, and I'm a cat that's from the street. So listen, I grew up with drug dealers. I grew up with criminals. I grew up with cats like that, you know what I'm saying? And had mad love for them because I understood what they were subjected to. And you know what they did? And this is how it touched my life. First of all, even though I wasn't that great of a basketball player, I was good enough to get a scholarship. The drug dealers helped me because they would be like, you're going to shoot in the park. They'd be like, all right, man, that's enough. You got to go now because we getting ready. You know what I'm saying? They getting ready to do some stuff. And they would protect me. They'd let me sit in there for 2 hours every day and shoot baskets and help me get a scholarship. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And what they would say to me is, you better not ever be a part of this life because you got your mom at home and you got your sisters and they got your back. We don't have nobody. We didn't have a choice. You do. And a lot of times people don't realize people on the wrong side of the tracks are the first ones to look out for others to keep them away from the wrong side of the tracks. Mm-hmm. They didn't believe they had a choice, but they know you do. And so that's where my compassion and my understanding and my empathy comes in, because there are some cats that just feel like there was no other way. Yeah. And they're not trying to pull others with them. They're trying to push you away from all that and will whip your ass if you do try to get into that life, because they know you have no business in it.
That's the part. That's one thing that I wish was conveyed. You know, the hood mentality and all that stuff you see on TV. But people don't see that some people didn't have a chance. I'm just being honest. They didn't have a chance.
They didn't have a chance.
You know, I got family members that didn't have a chance.
Right.
Mama went to prison. Daddy going in and out of prison. Mom and daddy, they're not raising you right. They don't love you.
Right.
One of my family members used to get, you know, sometimes some people get a whooping.
Yeah.
You get a whooping, you get a switch. No, he get punched.
That's right.
Punched right in the chest. And mama dies. Daddy go to prison for 40 years. Mm-hmm. Well, he ain't got a chance. He didn't have love like we did.
Right.
We got whoopings, but my mama and them loved. It was dignified. Right. You know what I'm saying? It was some dignity to it. It wasn't just beating you down and make you feel like trash, calling you stupid. Right. Some of my cousins, they lived in a house with roaches in it.
Yeah.
And they didn't know their daddies. You know what I'm saying? So it's like some people don't really have a chance, you know, and we have to be compassionate.
And that's
for people
what I'm saying.
Like
so when somebody is looking at me, right, and this is to get to that point, I say all of this to white folks all the time. What you just said, what I just finished saying. I can't tell you how many times I'm on Fox News, I'm on CNN, I'm on News Nation, I'm somewhere and I talk for an hour and a little 90-second clip is picked off and they put it out there and you see these sharp cuts and these edits and they left this out and that out and this is what Stephen A said and everybody's in an uproar and I'm like, I talked for 90 minutes.
Yeah.
I did this segment. It was a 12-minute segment. They played 30 seconds for social media and that's all anybody's going by. You know, these people, I'm like, you're just looking at folks. It's like, at some point in time, you just looking to come at me, ain't you? You just looking to come at me because you're not really, really trying to understand what the hell I said because I have a history of fighting one battle after another as a black man in corporate America. I'm just not somebody that communicates with white people and I think that every white person is the devil. Every white person is bad. Every white person is evil. Every white person is out to get us. I'm like, damn it, sometimes it's me. Sometimes they ain't like my ass. Ain't nothing to do with black. Ain't like me. You know what I'm saying? Or they ain't like, why? Because there's some people, no, I just don't like your ass. You know what I'm saying? It's you. And it had nothing to do with your ethnicity or anything like that, your gender or anything. It's you. So it's like you just look at stuff like that and you just say, this is the world that we're living in, and that's the dangerous part, which is why it's so important that people like you, me, and others have our own platform because it's like, if you don't really hear what we're saying, it's because you really don't want to.
Right.
It's not because it's not there for you to hear and see, because we have the platforms to ensure that you do.
Yeah, and I know we running low on time.
I'm good.
Because
I'm good.
But one thing that strikes me is that I wish, and I may not convey it right all the time because I'm frustrated.
Right.
When I look at a video.
You come across like that. You come across very frustrated.
And I see us cutting up. And I live around all these white people. And I'm looking at the way white people move. And I look at the way we move growing up. And I'm frustrated because I go to a black establishment just in any city. I travel all over the country. I'm like, why they can't get their stuff together? Why can't you have some respect for your business? Why can't you greet somebody? And I'm not saying everyone, because I went to one and they looked at me like I was a three-headed monster because I came in there with two white people. But the young lady that served us, I gave her $1,000 tip because she was excellent. And I just was on my heart to give her an incredible tip. And then she tears came to her eyes. Clearly that guy worked that out. She needed it. But like, it's almost like every time I go to a place where black people at, they cutting up. And I wish that black people would, instead of making an excuse about white people, they level up. Instead of saying, oh, the white man did this or this society ain't man. It's like, at what point you gonna realize maybe you should cut your hair and be decent looking. Maybe you should dress the part.
But let me say this to you.
And not feel like.
But that's your experience. My experience.
Which is true.
My experience is that there's plenty of black people that are exactly the way you described that white person to be. I can't tell you how many times that it could be a maitre d', it could be a flight attendant, it could be a waitress, it could be a manager in a restaurant, it could be anything. And they black and they got their stuff together. And it's not, again, we don't want to paint a broad brush.
Right.
Now, there's plenty of times I've looked at us as you know, some of us in our community, damn, get your shit together. I mean, come on, you could do better than that. I'm thinking to myself. But far more often than not, we got our stuff together under the worst of circumstances, under the most adverse of circumstances. And there's people that's looking for their own shot. Like, you know, to me personally, the frustration that you speak of, I don't resent it because I get where you're coming from, because you want the best for us. Because as a black man, you want us as black people to really, really have our stuff together. My point is, so do I, but I see it a lot.
Yeah.
I see it a lot more often than that. And when you have these people coming at me, I can't tell you how good it's made me feel when I go out in the street, because I travel a lot too, and black people come up to me from all over the country. We don't feel that way about you. Hell with them, Steve. I'm talking about it could be a grandma, it could be a mama, it could be a sister, it could be a hardcore brother in the street. You know he hardcore. You just looking at him. He in the street. He like, yo, man, I rocks with you, dog. I love you, bro. I don't give a damn what they say about you. You my dog. I want you to know that. And it means the world to me, because it's like these folks that say that, they go out of their way to try to convince people that everybody's thinking that way. And that's not true. And so you just have to remember that, because if you don't remember that, you'll lose faith in us.
Yeah.
And if you lose faith in us, you're going to assume, and you don't want to do that. We don't deserve that. You don't deserve that. Yeah. And you got to remember that.
I have to say I get biased at times, but you know, like you experience, people probably think black people hate me. Everywhere I go. We were just at the airport. We fly JSX. Right. At the JSX airport in the valet, black kid. Nobody talked to me but the black guy.
Right.
When I'm traveling, when I first started, Stephen A., number white people. Mm-hmm. You couldn't find a black person to come up to me.
Right.
Now I feel like it's equal or more black people come up to me than white people do.
Right.
And you got to think the population of black people is significantly different, even in the conservative movement.
And they're kind, they're decent.
Yeah,
they treat you like family. They're articulate, they're intelligent, the whole bit. That's why I'm saying to you, you can't just look at the experience that you have and assume that. But there's a lot of us doing the right thing.
100%. We need to do a better PR job.
Okay.
And
you know, PR is a problem across the board. Right, you support politicians that don't do a horrible PR. You think Trump is good at PR? I got news for you. He's not. He's not. You understand?
It ain't news to me. I agree with you.
Exactly. He's terrible at PR. You see what I'm saying? But he don't get judged that way. You know, well, why is that? Because he's won. He's in the presidency, and he's a billionaire. He ain't got to worry about it.
Kind of, sort of. I mean, they do bust his butt more than they probably should at times. I mean, he can't do nothing right. And one crowd, he can't do nothing right.
Right.
He can cure cancer.
The Republicans, here's how the Republicans mess up, in my opinion. You know, when Democrats sit up there and say, you don't have a plan for black America, right? It's true. Now, the Republicans could retort by saying, we have a plan for America. We believe we have a plan that benefits all Americans or whatever. But here's where that's BS. It's BS because when you're campaigning, you go to each community with a plan, because you know you're speaking to different groups of people. You don't go echoing the same message with the same cadence and tone and tenor, no matter who you're talking to. You diversify your portfolio. You diversify your presentation because you're trying to garner votes. So my point is that if that's your approach and you know that, why forget that when you get in office? Why not make sure, listen, this is going to benefit black America. You understand? When he did with small businesses, when you sit up there and you think about some of the things that he did with HBCUs and stuff like that, I'm like, okay, at least that's you saying, I'm trying to do for that group of people. Now, there's a lot of other things you might need to do, et cetera, and there's a lot of things you could refrain from doing. Like stop trying to get in the way of people to have access to their own history. You can't erase history. Why do I feel that way, Officer Tatum? I'm going to tell you why I feel that way. I'll shut up. And I met Ron DeSantis like a week ago. I'm hoping to interview him soon. You understand? Because I got some questions I want to ask him too, even though I think for the most part he's really smart and knows what the hell he's doing. But there are some things I diametrically disagree with, and I told him so. But it was a pleasure to meet him. What I'm saying is that you're sitting there and you're making a concerted effort to block black folks, in my opinion, from having access to their history, the books that they read. I know you don't want them indoctrinated in school, and I'm good for that. I understand that, because school, you're supposed to be learning math, science, or read, write, all of this stuff. You're supposed to be indoctrinated, all right? That's not what we sending our kids to school for. I understand that. But in the same breath, there shouldn't be this concerted effort to sort of block black history. And
Stephen A., you think that they legitimately is looking at this like a contingency of people together, and they're like, we're going to block black history?
No, I don't believe that's what they're saying to themselves. That's not what I'm saying. And I'll explain that in a second. What I'm saying is, I would say to them, and I've said this publicly, so I can say it to you. When you go to the Jewish community and try that, call me. You wouldn't think about doing that to the Jewish community. You wouldn't think it. Why are you bothering us? Because you can. See, you can't pull that with them. That's the difference. Because that power structure that they have in place in this country, it's formidable. You do that, you're going to pay a price. But because that's not something you truly have to concern yourself with as a Republican with the black community whose vote you're not getting anyway in your mind, you don't think it's anything. They're not trying to I don't believe that somebody white on Capitol Hill is saying, let's make sure black folks don't have access to this information. I think that inherently, and this is how I believe Trump got elected to begin with, I think the Obama backlash element, where you had white people in this country that were very put off by him being in the presidency, that was put off by the Affordable Care Act, that were put off by 22 to 24 million plus people getting health care, even though a lot of them were white. And in southern states, by the way, they had this issue. And what their point was, excuse me, we gonna look out for us. We're not going to foment and allow to continue to develop and cultivate a society where we're constantly villainized for our history. That was then. That's no longer the case. Kids shouldn't have to be growing up reading about this, hearing about this, studying about this, and stuff like that, because all it's doing is fomenting hate, divisiveness, and acrimony amongst the races. We don't want that. That's what I think they're doing. And so because that's what I think they're doing, this is the measure they're going against. But again, I say the same answer that I just said. Go to the Jewish community and try that with them and come call me. Because if you don't do it to everybody, don't do it to anybody. Because the Republicans pride themselves on, when we talk about free market capitalism, talk about national security, talk about patrolling our borders, we talk about this kind of stuff. That's for America, not for a segment of America, right? So if that's what you live on, I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about them. Yeah. If that's what you live on, right, then live on it consistently across the board, and I got nothing to say. But when groups are being targeted, that's when it gets dicey, because now you're asking us to trust your judgment. And none of them on Capitol Hill deserve to be left to their own devices when it comes to trust.
Right.
None of them on either side of the aisle. That's where I come from.
I'm glad I got your perspective, because when I hear you say this on your podcast and things like that, I never heard you say it from that perspective. It seemed like the conversation was very isolated to just a simple argument of you're deleting history. When you explain that you think it's almost a byproduct of something else that they're doing that's vicariously maybe affecting Black history, then I see your point. And I think it'd be great for you to talk to Ron DeSantis and have him explain, well, what exactly are you doing and how are you measuring it? Because I see where the federal government is looking out for these obscure things that people are interjecting into the history to make it more prejudiced than it really ever had to be. Like when you're going to talk about the civil rights movement, you have to be reasonable with the civil rights movement. You can't just make it so punitive towards one race. You have to balance the perspective of giving facts on both sides. And I'm saying this is for anybody. You can't just make the white people sound good and the Black people sound bad. You got to give a fair assessment. The Civil War, when it was fought, the reasoning behind it. Because I took Africana Studies in college, and I feel like that we bastardize the entire experience, because you got people going to college thinking that slavery was about race. It was not about race. It was never about race. It was about economic access to human capital. Right. And Black Africans sold these Black people to these white folks. It wasn't that they went over there and killed everybody and just took these Black people. So it was. Yeah,
but I would never say it wasn't about race. Two things can be true.
It
can be exactly what you said.
I would say,
but it's still it's definitely about race when it's the Black folks that were enslaved. Now, if I saw some white slaves out there, you have me.
Let me give you an example. This is why I say it. Because in America, Christopher Columbus and them came over here and they tried to enslave white people. They didn't have the ability to work in the heat and in that environment. They could not do the work. They didn't have enough people. They tried to, make the Indian slave, the native slave, but they had their own common language. And they also knew the terrain, so they would always escape. So how do you get a maximum amount of cheap human capital to bring over into the country and do it? That's why they went to the continent of Africa.
Okay.
And you got to think, Africans were slaves all over the world.
But you're also
more in South America than even in North America.
Okay, and I'm saying to you, you're talking about what you perceive or have studied to be their original intent. I'm talking about the consequence. Now, your man might come over there, right? And he might walk up to you and punch you in the face. And he punched you in the face because one of his boys was there and he told him to do it. And he had a gun pointing at him and all of this. I said, I'm gonna shoot your ass. You go hit Officer Tater right now, right? You don't know that. All you know is you got punched in the face.
Right.
What's your reaction gonna be?
Right.
And so the point that black folks are making is that historically, the iniquities that were exacted against our community, this is what happened to us.
Yeah.
The reasons behind it are open for debate in some people's eyes, but the victims don't want to hear the debate.
But
they know what happened to them.
Right, but I think it's helpful for us to understand the context and what happened to us so we don't live with this grudge and this hatred. Because when you look at, like, for instance, people tried to challenge me on this, but it's facts. The first legal slave owner in American history was Anthony Johnson. Mm-hmm. He sued for both his slaves to be indentured service, to be slaves for life. Mm-hmm. And in court, he won, and they ended up being slaves for life. That's the first time that there was legal slave ownership for owning somebody for life. Okay. There was a black man that did that in the 1600s. You go through methodically, and you look at, like, for instance, Harriet Tubman. I did not know for the longest, even in college. They never taught. And I'm not saying it's as consequential as it changes everything.
I'm listening to you, but I don't know any of this.
Yeah,
I don't know people
look
looking at me. If I'm not pushing back, it's because I don't know.
Yeah,
all right.
And I feel like sane people should respect that, right? I expect that if something I say, you like, I don't know about that, you go look it up and then you address it. Just like Harriet Tubman. I did not know Harriet Tubman was married to a black man who was free, and they lived together on the same plantation. And her husband told her not to start the Underground Railroad. And now, and historically, he's a coward to most people because she went on and did it anyway. And so there's other things like that I feel like we don't tell the full story. We create hatred towards one another. Madam C.J. Walker, like, it's a perception that black people were, like, downtrodden and they could do nothing ever. And they were but you see Madam C.J. Walker, she's one of many incredibly successful black people. I mean, she was a billionaire. She was Oprah Winfrey in the late 1800s. She was the first female millionaire out of any woman of any color in the late 1800s. And you have to ask yourself, how are these people doing this? Frederick Douglass.
What about the Tulsa riots at Black Wall Street?
Let me explain that to you. This is one thing that I feel like black people should be able to compartmentalize and hear the full story so they can make an assessment. I bet you $1 million, I bet you believe this, and most people do, is that there was black people were successful in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and it was a Black Wall Street. White people got mad and burnt it down. And that was the end of the story. But that's not what happened. It was actually a racial conflict that happened. There was an incident that happened on the elevator. 3 black people, or black people, started shooting and killing white people first. White people came to the city. It was a conflict, and white people won that conflict. But 4 years later or so, they built back Black Wall Street. They don't tell that side. They act like it was demolished and flattened and then never recovered.
I got to read that up because I didn't hear the part about the 3 black people in the elevator.
No, it wasn't 3 black in the elevator. It was that it was a conflict in the elevator with a black and white, kind of like the Emmett Till situation. But then when the conflict started, black people began to fire first, killing white people initially in this beginning of the conflict. White people came up from other areas and it got nasty. And they started burning stuff and killing black. And then it was a racial conflict. It was a riot. Now they call it a massacre. And if you look at the documentation over time, how it was called, it was a riot first, and now it's a massacre because it was convenient enough. But here's the thing: Chad Jackson, you know Chad Jackson, Chad O. Jackson.
I heard the name.
Yeah, so Chad O. Jackson did a documentary called Uncle Tom. I was featured in it, whatever. He proves with evidence and research of the emergence or reemergence of Black Wall Street that only a few years later they rebuilt and they were incredibly successful. But why do we not hear the full story? Because what not hearing the full story does is it creates animosity and hatred and make black people feel like that this was taken from us and we never recovered. When in fact we did recover. When in fact we had Harlem. And we had a lot of great success.
And my point to you is, where do you think that would come from? I would venture to you that it comes from the politicians and those who want to manipulate them.
100%.
And the reason why is because the more division you have, the more control you have, because you're forcing folks to pick a side. I never forget, I was at D.C. and I was at this it changed my life politically. This is years ago. This is about 20 years ago or so. I had to do a hit at the Bureau in D.C. for ESPN. And it was two politicians that I had just seen arguing on MSNBC. And I mean, they were going at it. It was like, you almost felt like it was security in the building standing nearby because they were going to come to blows. It was really, really bad. It was ugly. And I go to the restaurant nearby. It's right by the Amtrak train station. And I go to the restaurant in the Union Station, and they're sitting in there together. Mm. And I was in the booth next to them, and they was like, that was some damn good television. You understand? We got everybody fooled. Laughing it up, clanking glasses. You understand? And I never forgot that as long as I lived, because they were arguing about very, very serious political matters, their differences and their disagreements on, I believe it was Meet the Press, if I remember correctly, because it was a Sunday morning that I saw this Sunday morning, like Sunday in the early afternoon was when the restaurant opened. And I couldn't believe it. It was like, this is what you're doing because you benefit, because one side or the other has to be picked in a binary system. And if both sides are getting fed because you got lobbyists feeding these boys, putting their spin on things and pushing that and pushing that and pushing that, all you're doing is stirring the cup and leaving the American citizens to fight amongst ourselves for the BS you create. And they do it on purpose. And that's why somebody like me is a nightmare. And I'm not a nightmare because I'm some presidential candidate or something like that. I'm a nightmare because I'm willing to talk to both sides. I'm willing to listen to both sides. But I'm not just talking about the politicians. See, I don't mind Officer Tatum and Roland Martin being on a set with me. Mm-hmm. I don't mind Candace Owens and the guy Josh, Duff, if I remember correctly, Joshua Doss being on with me. I don't mind that. I want that. I want to create a platform where I'm just here and I'm the mediator. Officer Tatum, no, he studied this more than me. This is what he said. Roland, this is what he said. Mark Lamont Hill, this is what he said. This is what he said. Anton Daniel, this is what he said. And get everybody together. Because to me, the real cure, specifically for black people, is for black people to see black people in our entirety.
100%.
In our ultimate beauty. It's like, it's liberal, it's conservative, it's Democrat, it's Republican, it's businessman, it's blue collar, it's all of it come together. You see that there's a potpourri of us. And no matter what side you pick, you know what you can't say? That they ain't one of us.
Right.
Once you sit up there and look at all of us and all our complexions, all our versatility, all our diversity, and you see that we're all from the same group, you can no longer sit up there and talk about sellout and all of this other stuff. All of us are in it together. Even if we think differently and vote differently, we're still us. And that would force other people to have to deal with us as a collective instead of serving to divide us the way that they have.
You hit the nail on the head. I don't think I can add nothing else to that. I think that if we were to do that, because I know for a fact, like me and Roland or somebody was in here.
Right.
Online, we beefing.
Yeah.
I mean, I ain't beefing with you.
Right.
I got too much stuff to do. But I'm saying, like, online, we disagree.
Right.
But if we were sitting around, having a whiskey or smoking a cigar, I guarantee you people would be mind blown at the similarities that we have and how well we get along.
Yeah.
It's one, like, I've never met a person that I disagree with online that when I see them in person, we still have that same level of conflict. Mm-hmm. And that's the biggest threat to them, is us coming together like this. I think this is like an example of people coming together that may disagree on some things that unite for the better good.
Yeah.
5 years ago, I don't think, it was probably not that long ago, when you first started, when I first started hearing you talk more about politics, I'd never thought that we would sitting across from each other.
Right.
Because I thought you were going to be way over here, like the haters that hate on you and talk crazy about you. No. But, us coming together like this is impressive. But
it's a big deal to me. It's a big deal to me. I've been blessed and fortunate to have achieved a lot. in my career. What I'm after is a big, in my perfect world, I'll have my own real time with Bill Maher show. In my perfect world, I'll have my own platform that I will have created for the purposes of network television and beyond. And guess what? You'd get an invite. And so would them on the left, and so would others on the right, because that's what it's all about. And then have a discussion about where we stand and why, and speak substantively, not getting emotional and ready to call people names and get in the fight over what? What are we talking about here? Because, and not only that, it's kind of phony. Because if we in the streets talking, we disagree. Yeah. No problem. But it don't stop us with hanging with each other. Right. It don't stop us with being cool with one another. From the time we were kids growing up, I don't give a damn who it was. I got plenty of my boys. You know what I mean? The time my boys I got at least 3 of my boys, hardcore liberals. Man, I voted for Trump. I won't vote for her. No, I wasn't doing that. I ain't like the way I got that woke culture style. When you see in the black household, you Steven, and then you could come to moms and pops and say, I'm Stephanie now. When you see that happen, they'll say stuff like that. They bring it home. And it's like you see stuff and you know that this exists, but this polarization has become profitable for a lot of people. And they're master manipulators at getting other people to do their bidding. And unfortunately, we got too many people who fall for it, hook, line, and sinker. But if we strong and we about something and we principled, we'll be all right. I know my principle is that this is me. I say what I feel based on the facts I know, leaving myself open to being corrected. You don't have to insult me. You don't have to go off. You can say, Steven, you're wrong. Here's why. And I'm going to look and go like this. Okay, let me see if I'm wrong. Yeah. And if I don't think I'm wrong, I'm going to come back. Nope, I had it right. But if you got me, I'm going to be like, you got me. Yeah. Very, very simple. And to me, that contributes to making the world a better place.
Well, I think that concludes the interview, man, or the conversation that we had. I think we can go for 3 hours and talk. We got to do this again.
No, anytime.
And I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you being yourself, like I always know you to be. And I want to before. Well, we'll end the interview, but I want to just have like 5 minutes or so. I'm going to ask you a couple more questions, and I want to do this for my audience, my members, and this is like 5 minutes.
No problem.
So anyway, thank you, Stephen A., man. I really appreciate it, man. I'm very grateful and thankful you came to do this interview, and I've been looking forward to this for a long time. So
man, so
we got to do it again,
Definitely, man.
I appreciate you, bro. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go to we'll call it a post-show clarity. Post-show clarity, I'm going to ask Stephen A. a couple more questions that I've been wanting to ask him throughout this interview. I know we run out of time, but I want to do it for y'all, all right? So hold the phone. We'll be there in a second.